back to another episode of Rich Lessons. And I'm really excited to have this man on here. My husband said, "Oh, you got to bring Chris on the show." And so we have Chris Ross on the show today. I'm going to tell a little bit about him for you all to kind of get a gist of what he has going on. Chris Ross is a real estate investor and developer with a focus on hospitality and cultural authenticity. Known for transforming underutilized properties into vibrant community spaces, Chris blends design, experience, and local culture to create venues that feel rooted in place. His approach to business is both strategic and soulful, making him a sought-after figure in hospitality and real estate circles. Welcome to Rich Lessons.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, what did I miss?
I'm a real estate agent.
Okay, agent.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
and so when we talk about, we'll get into like the investment side and like how do you bring people to the table. But from your background, how did you get into this space, this world?
I think it's somewhat non-traditional. I started off as a bartender, and I bartended on Bourbon Street for 32 years. And in 1997, I was working behind the bar, bartending, and I'm listening to some customers talk about real estate. And I asked them what they were doing, and they said, "Well, real estate." I'm like, "What is that?" I didn't even know what it was at the time. And so they told me what it was, and I'm gonna date myself here. I said, "Okay." So I went to look in this phone book. I had to pull out the phone book, and I looked up real estate schools, and it was $350. I paid that, and I don't know, whatever you believe in, it was 4 months later, I was a real estate agent. That's how I got into the real estate business.
So that's how you got into real estate. And then did you start off in hospitality in like large scale real estate, or did you start out in residential?
I started out very briefly in residential. So again, I'm dating myself again. At the time, used to do desk duty, right? So they didn't have a lot of cell phones. They had them, but it was just not as prevalent. So I'm sitting on desk duty in a residential office. I didn't sell one house. And then I'm looking at the magazines that had the top commercial real estate agents in the city of New Orleans, and they didn't have any black people on there. And I was wondering why they didn't have that. And so I started investigating, and then I looked even more. There were larger transactions, $2 million or whatever it was. And talked to my manager, and she was like, "Yeah, I have a college degree and all of that." Just didn't make sense for me. And so I picked up the phone book, again, the phone book, right? And keep coming back to that. And I looked up the top commercial real estate firms in the city, and it was like 5 or 6 of them, and I called them, and nobody called me back but a guy named Rich Stone at Ladder and Bloom. And so I met with him. It was like a Tuesday at 1:30. And he said, "I like your energy. I like what you're talking about. I'll get back with you," which he never did. So for the next 6 weeks, every Tuesday at 1:30, I called him. Every Tuesday, I called him. Every Tuesday, I called him till he gave me an opportunity. So that's how I got into the commercial real estate business.
And from there, so I feel like when you're online, people are constantly talking about residential real estate. It's all about buy back the block. And that's like constant. A friend of mine recently sent me a text message, and she said, "Oh, Switch, I got this real estate opportunity for you, investment." And she was like, there's 13 acres of land in Crockett, Texas. And I'm thinking, I don't even know where Crockett, Texas is.
Right.
And she's like, "Oh, it's a good deal. They only want like $100,000 for it." And she's like, "I'm thinking about investing, and I see myself, resident." I said, "Oh, all you got to say is residential to run me away," because I have had my fair share of dealings with residential real estate from an investment perspective. And I currently been like dumping my residential property, but I've also invested in commercial real estate. What do people not know about commercial real estate from your preview?
I think they don't realize they can leverage equity. You can go out and you can borrow equity to do deals, and I don't think that most people realize that about commercial real estate.
And what do you mean by that?
So if you go to the bank and you get $1 million deal, you got to come up with $200,000. You can borrow that $200,000 to borrow more money to do it.
And this would be for something like a small hotel. So say if you wanted to do
small hotel, retail, larger residential properties, you can do that.
Do you feel like right now is a good time to get in? Because I hear from two different sides, so you're the expert in this. Some people are like, "Hey, we're running away from commercial real estate, especially since COVID. Everybody's like big buildings that are sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
But then some people who are being very innovative when it comes to commercial real estate, they're like, that's the space that you're trying to find your way into it. So
I think that is a good time to be in the commercial real estate space because everybody's running away from it. So when there's blood in the water, I think there's opportunity for sure. So I think it's a good time. You're going to see, I actually have one myself. You're going to see a lot of short sales, which means that, the bank, you owe the bank X, and they're saying, look, we know we can't recoup that. We're going to let you sell it for this number. So if you owe $1 million to the bank says, we're not going to get that. We're going to sell it for $600,000. So then you can benefit from that.
Yeah, so you could come in by what it was value, undervalued, and ideally maybe you flip that, turn into something else, maybe you keep it the same.
Correct.
But you're 40% up already.
Correct. Or well, off of what the original value was.
Of the
Now, what the
original
value today is may not be that, but you can win, right? Because you're buying it at a more practical number today.
Yes. Now, I'm curious to know, how do you identify neighborhoods or properties with potential? Like, if I was someone and I was like, oh, Chris, I'm interested, I have some money, I'm looking for a space, I'm looking for the right neighborhood. Mm-hmm. How do you identify, like, what are some things that you're looking for?
It's a number of different indicators. For me, I look at the building condition, the situation that's going on here. I'll tell you a quick story about actually the largest transaction I've ever done. So I was living at the Saratoga building on Loyola Street, 212 Loyola. So I'm living in the building, we paying a decent amount of money in rent, and I smoke cigars, right? So on the third floor, they had it's like a pool area, and they had sitting furniture. And I started noticing that the furniture was not up, it wasn't kept up. And I'm like, damn, I'm paying a good bit of money here and they're not keeping up the furniture, right? So I said, okay. So then I noticed that, I started paying more attention, I noticed that nobody was really using the elevators. So what does that mean? Occupancy is low. All right, occupancy is low for me, that's opportunity. So we eventually got the property. Actually, we got 2 properties out of that. That was a $35 million transaction. But then in addition to that, we sold another building for $30 million. All literally just because I looked at the furniture in the building as an indicator. So I mean that's extreme, but it's all different kind of things. You can look at it didn't work, but I can just tell you how my mind thinks. I saw Hanno potentially leasing office space on Poitras, right? So I'm gonna go left. I'm gonna say, okay, where are they coming from? Mm-hmm. What they gonna do with the building that they have? Have they thought about that? Is that an opportunity for me? So I'm gonna always try to counter what's going on, even if I'm not in front of it. That makes sense to you?
Yes, for sure. And do you bring other people into the deal? So how do you?
It depends. I'm brokering, right? So a lot of times I'm gonna go out and create the opportunity, but then I may have 1 or 2 potential buyers on the back end that may benefit from that piece of real estate.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You said that was your largest transaction. Mm-hmm. Is it that one, or is there another one when you were really getting into the groove of things? Was there one project or one purchase that changed everything for you?
Well, the first one. The first one, right? The first one, I never forget, it was 2000. The first one was, again, in 97, I've been an agent, but the first one I sold was in 2000. So 25 years ago, 2001. It's catty-corner to Morrow State. Mm-hmm. It's a different time. Somebody wanted to buy the building to be a cell phone distributor. They wanted to sell cell phones out of it. It's $45,000. That was the first one. I made $800.
Wow. They got you in the game.
That got me started.
So you went from $800 to doing transactions of 20 plus million, 30 plus million,
yes.
And working with.
The first one was $45,000.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And I try to, when I'm talking to a lot of younger folks, when they're talking to me about commercial real estate, they want to start at 30 million, right? I'm like, man, it took me a while to do. I mean, that was, year 20.
Yeah.
So that I sold that property. So yes.
So I recently approached Chris. I was asking him for some help with my condo, 1201, which I've been the worst entrepreneur when it comes to, again, residential real estate is not my ministry. Now I can see like apartment buildings, like the type of residential
yeah,
and you offer, but as far as having like a tenant, someone in there, but 1201, we were having like issues. It eventually worked itself out. Mm-hmm. It had to work itself out very publicly. Mm-hmm. And so I had reached out to Chris to kind of ask him, how do you ensure that you don't get over, your HOA doesn't get over you, you're part of it, all these different things. But when you think about just the essence of real estate and bringing people to the table, and that you're working with these type of developers, you're helping them fill their spaces, you're helping them develop their spaces. How do you think about that from the standpoint of being in such a historical city as New Orleans and trying to balance like preservation with, hey, we got to get this money, we got this
Facts,
project
right?
done?
And for me, yes, it's important. And for me, I try to. It's not a lot of me in the business, and so I try to. I want to use that is to bring more of African Americans into this field. So I try to. I have a deal right now. It's a big deal. Well, contextually, it's a big deal, and the building owners, we're sitting on it, and I know we can't sell it because we're asking too much money for it. It just is what it is, right? So I have two African American entrepreneurs in different fields. One is in the development space, but not this particularly, and one is a large contractor. So I'm like, yo, here's an opportunity for you. I know we can't sell the building because we're asking too much for it, meaning my owner might stay in the deal, which would help you, right? You don't have to buy it. You can actually partner with that owner and bring those two guys together and say, okay, let's try to do a deal. So I'm trying to be, I'm real intentional on thinking about it like that and not just putting a sign on the property and saying, okay, come and buy me. I have to be creative in how I'm going to attract people to purchase this piece of property or lease it or whatever.
Yeah. Now, I first kind of started mingling in the hospitality space because I met a guy named Andy, who was the president of NABHOOD.
I know.
Andy?
Yeah, I do.
Andy's a character.
Yeah.
Shout out to Andy.
Yeah.
He's out in DC, Miami, Bahamas. So
Everybody knows that. That's the first hotel conference I ever went to was NABHOOD in Miami.
NABHOOD,
Yeah.
yes. So I went to NABHOOD in DC, and they usually throw some stuff around CBC, Congressional Black Caucus. And so he started just talking to me about all these things, and I didn't realize, oh wow, someone like me can invest in hotels. I can invest in commercial property. You just mentioned, like, people don't realize if you could put up $200,000 for $1 million building and figure out the rest in loans, etc. But how does someone who's looking to invest in hospitality or into real estate, where do you start? Do you start at like, oh, go to NABHOOD conference? Oh, do I call someone like you and say, hey, Chris, put me in the game? What deals are you looking at?
I think you should start, number one, just paying attention to what's going on. I mean, I know that's super simple, but paying attention to what's going on, just in general, what's happening. Then you narrow that down to, okay, what's happening in regards to how does that affect real estate? And then from that, you narrow it down to, okay, what's valuation? Then you understand valuation. Then you figure out where the opportunities may be for you. Because somebody may say, like you said, you're not a single family person to do that, but you would, 100 units, you may think about buying something like that, right? Because the return is good, but you don't want to be day-to-day fixing dishwashers and things of that nature, right? So yeah, I would think I like to start at the top, at the top is not the best word. I would like to start from the bottom and kind of learn the business up. I think when some people, when they start off at the top and looking at these larger transactions, they think that's, to me, you got to get to the baseline of where it is. Like when I first started, I started abstracting titles. Today, that's real easy to do. You go on NewOrleansAssessor.com, you put your address in, the name comes up. When I started in the business, it wasn't that. You had to go to City Hall on the fourth floor, whatever it was, and look up the address, and then go down to the basement and figure out who the ownership was. So it was a different time, but it really helped me, right? Because now I understand all aspects of it. So when I go to sale and there's an issue on the title, I understand how do I help cure that issue, if there is one. Make sense?
Yeah. I mean, because you've clearly been doing this for so long, and you started made $800 on your first one, to where you are now. For someone also who wants to get into commercial real estate, again, can't start at 20 million. What is one of those mistakes that you made that you would tell them early, say, hey, be prepared for this as you get into commercial real estate?
The time that it takes to do it. Like I said, that transaction may have been year 20. I mean, I've worked 2 and 3 jobs. I'm very transparent. I just stopped working on Bourbon this Mardi Gras. I did that for 32 years.
I feel like you just loved it.
Well, I got to a point probably 5, 6. I didn't have to do it, but I've been doing it since I was 19 years old. So I'm in my 50s now. So I just did it, right? And I became but I would say that they don't understand it. It takes time to do it. It just takes time to do it. For me in my business is because, I know folks who were interns and now they're like bank presidents. Mm-hmm. I met them when they were on the way up, right? So now my relationship has grown because of their growth. So it takes time to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, going back a little bit to the conversation around starting at the bottom, mm-hmm. right? And just like learning like the basics and learning like the movement. I will say that I'm a follower when it comes to real estate investments because I'm not in real estate. Mm-hmm. And so if someone will bring me a deal, like my friend who I said brought me 13 acres mm-hmm. in Crockett. I never heard of that. That was a red flag. I mean, it doesn't mean I couldn't have invested in it, but I definitely Googled how far is Crockett from Houston? And it was like 2 hours. I said, oh no, that means I'm not about to be going to Crockett to look at this property. But I said, you know what? When someone comes back with a plan to develop that land and put something on it and then show me how it connects to what's around it, 'cause I think there's like some type of forestry and people go there for hiking. I was like, then I would be interested.
Sure.
Right. But not to like build a house.
But the price would have went up by then because somebody's going to develop things, right? So
well,
you would have wanted to get into it early?
Well, yes, but it was never going to be developed, right? So if the plan was to develop it into like a hospitality retreat or something like that, I would have been more interested in that, right? Than her building a house and maybe putting a farm. You know what I mean? For sure. I was like, I don't want to invest in something like that.
Let me see if I'm clear. Was she looking to land develop?
The land was not developed. It was flat land.
No, what I'm saying, meaning that, was she looking to take that property, carve it up into different sections, grade it out, put utilities in, and then sell lots?
Basically. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So she was basically like, oh, you could come in and maybe buy 3 acres of land and then you could just do what you want to do with it. But that's not my investment style.
Yeah. And I get it. I understand.
I want someone to bring me a deal and say, hey, I am going to go and develop this land.
The next phase of that development.
Exactly. And so I'm constantly always like looking for opportunities such as that. However, knowing like what's a good deal, what's a bad deal, this is where I become like, oh, well, if I trust this person in real estate and he brings a deal to me, I'm going to trust that deal is what it says it is. What can I do to ensure, or can you ensure? Am I just like, oh, I just got to trust the system?
Well, you have a real estate professional that you can talk to. And I would advise you and say, if I don't know, I'm going to just tell you I don't know, right? Mm-hmm. I will. But I think that you need to have people around you that can help you with that. Just like anything else, you have to have partners and that can help you move the process along. Personally, I was fascinated with this podcast thing. I'm like, I don't know this, but it's interesting to me. Yes. So if I want to start a podcast, who I'm going to call? I'm going to call Savitri.
Yes. So it's lots of work, let me tell you. Lots of work.
I can believe that. I can believe that. I mean, I can tell. So I would say just get people around you, different partners that can help you analyze the deal and seeing if it makes sense for you.
Yeah, because I will say, like, we're in tech. And so in tech, you don't really get people, you kind of like just make a decision, right? Someone will send you a deck, you read over the deck, and you already know that the chances of failure is super high, but you're like betting on the person. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times I've bet on the person.
Right.
Even in making real estate investments, it's like, oh, I know this person, or, this person introduced me by someone that I know and trust. And so I make the call just based on that. Now, would you suggest that type of behavior? Or are you like, no?
It depends, right? It depends on the level of conversation I'm having with that person. If that lady comes to me and just says, hey, give me X amount of dollars to invest in this piece of real estate, and I'm like waiting, like, okay, what else is there, right? It's close to a metropolitan area. There's a plant programmed up the road that's going to be this. I've done the research and I see that it's efficient in wildness, and we've studied, and 50,000 people come here typically annually to do this. It's the more in depth. Yeah, I can just tell if that person is in it. Now, if they just come to me, look, man, I need $100,000. I'm about to build this house, and these people gonna come. I ain't doing it.
Yeah.
So it's just the level of detail.
Now, are there people you look up to in real estate?
Yes.
So when I went to NABHood, it was like the Don Peoples and,
Absolutely.
All these people who were giants in real estate. And I was like, wow, look at all these black people doing all these great things. Mm-hmm. Is there anyone like that you're like, oh yeah, like that's like
Don Peoples for sure. Don Peoples for sure. He's definitely, he's similar path, right? He started out in DC with his mother was a real estate agent, and he started out doing tax assessments. And so I've studied him, right? So it's absolutely somebody like Don Peoples for sure. He's definitely a mentor from afar. I met him once, but definitely watched his path.
Now, for an entrepreneur or someone, maybe someone right now on Bourbon that's like behind the bars, like, you know what? I'm around all this beautiful real estate every single day. I'm walking through the French Quarter. What would you recommend for a first-time real estate entrepreneur, someone that's like, oh, I want to do what Chris Ross does?
Pray.
Number one.
And pray and patience, right? But I don't know. You know, that's a great question. Never been asked that in that way. I would just say, you know, if I was very blessed to be able to do something that became very easy to me, you know, and I think again, whatever you believe in, I was led to do that because y'all play sports.
I did.
What did you play?
Basketball.
Basketball. What were you, point guard?
One or two. Depends on.
For sure. You ever meet that person that's playing and you like, my God, you just can do this so much better than you can at this, and you know that, right? And they just can do it. You know what I'm saying? So I was just blessed in that I just understand it. I don't know.
Some things come very easy.
It became very easy to me. It did. And again, it came literally, I mean, I didn't study it. Nobody guided me. I was listening to some people behind the bar. That's what happened.
How do you feel with we're in tech, but of course we hear about artificial intelligence impacting so many different industries, and real estate is one of those industries that they're like, hey, eventually AI is gonna hit real estate. Are you seeing that in your industry? You
for
talk
sure,
about
for
it?
sure. Somebody like me, absolutely. I use ChatGPT every day. Every day. I'm a strong in like talking. I'm really good at that. But sitting down, putting together offer memorandums and the copy for that, it would take me a week to something that literally takes 5 minutes to this thing to do. So it's changed my business tremendously.
Yeah, I would think so. I would think that it would like help increase your human capacity and your day-to-day, like, almost like an assistant, right?
1,000%. Yeah, doing different analysis on the real estate, putting together my emails. I mean, I used it this morning, so yeah.
But you don't feel like it's going to, you don't think it's going to take away from the industry or take away from what you are building? So like, I'll give an example. There are companies now who are literally building AI agents and building these AI companies to replace like law firms. I mean, not completely, but you won't need as much or as many people to run these law firms because so much is going to be done by artificial intelligence. Do you feel like that will hit real estate in that way?
For sure, especially on the brokerage side, yes. I mean, getting the different data points that you need, again, putting together packages for information, analyzing the data, which is very important, I think. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to enhance. I don't think it eliminates. Because everything to me is relationships. I'm here because of a relationship, right?
Yeah.
Because I knew your husband and he said this, and now I'm here. Everything is relationships. When I talk to young folks about entrepreneurship, it's not just about this relationship I'm having here. If you have a customer, that's the relationship that you have with the customer, right? If you're looking for different vendors. So relationships to me is everything. I don't know if AI is going to help that as much.
I agree.
You know?
I have the argument often that there's a certain things, like I want to talk to a person. Like I don't want to talk to a bot. I don't want to see a robot. Not a digital bot, not a physical robot. Like I want to talk to a person. Real estate, I don't want a robot showing me a house or a building. I want a human. I don't want to go to therapy and talk to a robot. I want to talk to a human. So in that way, I feel like real estate has a protection piece, in my opinion.
What do you think about the next generation, though?
I know, because them little boogers. They're gonna be like, a person. What is that?
Right? They discount that, but it's so important. I mean, my generation is probably one of the last one. There was a large part of my life I didn't have the internet.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because you just said a phone book earlier. I was looking through the yellow pages. Now, I am old enough to also have had a phone book in the house at one point in time.
But my son, again, he's about to be 21.
What's the phone book?
What's the phone book?
The
What is
yellow
that?
pages.
He's never had life without the internet.
Yeah.
Or even better, never had life without social media.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You ever seen these little memes where like they put the different generations in the room and they'll say, do the signal for like talking on the phone, and like everybody in the older generation does this, and the new generation be like, they'll do something. It's like a different way they do it, but yeah. But I don't. Yeah, it's interesting maybe with the next generation, because I feel like with real estate, so you kind of mentioned it earlier, like there's a lot of people who always kind of aspire to get into real estate, even if it's like a quote unquote side hustle. Like, how do I get into commercial real estate, residential real estate? Like I said, I was always curious, even now, but even you're right, even more so. What does that look like for the next generation when it comes to real
As far as
estate?
getting into the real estate, just being interested in real
I
estate.
think both, because I feel like with even as us being in tech, one thing that we hear about often is what happens to those entry level engineers. Because if AI can do at least like the baseline of coding, what happens to the entry level developer who once went to Google for an intern? What does that look like for the entry level person that's getting into real estate now? If you're already getting like all the data's being done for you and all the,
I think it'll be helpful, but I personally, I just don't believe that's going to increase business for them, because it's all goes down to relationships. If you don't have interpersonal skills, you won't ever get an opportunity to do anything. At a point, it gets to whereas our skill sets are the same. Being agent, you get to a point where we have the same skill sets. It's the relationships that we form that's going to give us opportunity.
Yeah, it kind of makes me think back to your big deal. You said you went in, you were seeing like it's a emotional intelligence, right? And I think that robots, AI today, now, you know, there is a world that super intelligence is coming, and that's a whole nother conversation. We don't know what that's going to look like. However, emotional intelligence to me is really important in deals like real estate, right? Someone say, "Oh yeah, because my grandmother lived at the block, and she could tell you that on the street, people around the corner, and you know,
which is very important, right? For sure. Absolutely.
I want to be able to talk to someone and have a emotionally intelligent conversation around something I'm going to buy, particularly if I'm putting a big investment into it. So I do agree that you can leverage the AI to enhance that, right? To make sure the data is right around it, to make sure that you didn't miss anything, all these different things. But I do agree, like, and again, maybe a 10-year-old right now, you see the AI baby running around on TikTok. Maybe he's like, "Oh, I don't like people," right? So hopefully that's not the case.
Where's that going to lead us to, right? I mean, are we going to be obsolete?
You mentioned earlier.
I don't think so.
I hope not.
I hope not. Good
Well,
Lord.
Elon Musk said, what did he say? He's not looking forward to being a houseplant, something like that.
Well, I was literally on a call with Reid Hoffman yesterday, and he was talking about this new drop that OpenAI just dropped another level of ChatGPT yesterday. That's supposed to be like a game changer for building, coding, programming, like next level.
He's saying that, right?
Yeah. One of my engineers sent me a message, was like, "This is gonna be a game changer for us."
I gotta go.
And I was like, "Okay, let me tap in." But August apparently is supposed to be like a big month for OpenAI and a bunch of different releases. But even he said that he thinks that people are too afraid than what they should be. He was like, AI, the fact that people think they're going to replace people, right? That there's going to be no need for people. He feel like people are overreacting to that sentiment. And he's kind of like, I consider him a grandfather of AI.
Oh, for sure. He's been there.
Yeah.
Earlier, though, I asked you about one of the mistakes or one of the misconceptions. You talk about timing. Like, most people don't realize the timing of it. Do you feel that also in this space, though, when it comes to commercial real estate, what do you think is one of the biggest missed opportunities, though?
Ask it.
So I'll give an example of, I've always been similar. I've always like wanted to get into real estate, but usually from like the residential side, until I started seeing people who got into it, and I was like, yeah, no, not my thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like, because even earlier we talked about the fact that like COVID, so many places are like just sitting just idle right now. And I've been reading more and more about the opportunities people are not taking advantage of when it comes to commercial real estate. San Francisco a little bit different because like there's zoning areas and some of the bigger areas. But like I know, I believe LA is even experimenting with taking a lot of those office buildings and like not turn them to just apartments, but turn them into like just completely different areas of just like renovation and shopping malls, and some residential, some commercial. It's just like, and I feel like LA's been talking about it. Detroit, I've heard a lot of talk in Detroit about what they can do with commercial real estate. But there's so many, I think, buildings that are sitting just open, and people are just missing out on opportunities because they maybe don't understand or are not as into commercial real estate, or it's not as popular as residential.
Yeah. Well, I think number one, real estate follows culture. think about that. Let me give an example. COVID happened, right? So most people wanted to work from home. What that mean? That most people don't want to be in office.
Yep.
So that changes the need, right? Because before, people being as a part in an office with community was very important. Whereas now that's not as important. So now the culture's moved to something different now, which affects real estate. In addition to that, this space that we're sitting here right now, this wouldn't have existed 10 years ago because podcast wasn't a thing. So it follows, is a reaction to what's needed and what's going on at the time. A lot of the buildings, especially downtown, giving example, the Saratoga building where I lived at, that was an office building before, right? And it was now converted because now we needed more residential, so it didn't serve as an office building, so it converted to a residential piece, right? Those opportunities are good, but I think if you, like someone like me, I'm gonna go deeper, right? The older buildings are better convertible opportunities than the newer buildings. Older buildings are rectangles, newer buildings is on the office side, or squares. So what that means is you have a rectangle building, you can put a corridor, and now you need natural light coming in. So if you got a corridor, then on both sides of it, you can do hotel rooms, apartments on either side of that double corridor. A newer building is a square, so that means that you have a hollow core in it because you don't have enough natural light coming in there. So you're going to lose potential space that would be valuable in the office setting, but not as valuable in a residential setting. That make sense to you?
Look at me. I take some notes. Like missing
Older
opportunities
building.
over here. Like,
Older
see,
buildings.
these are what I'm talking like the opportunities. I think people maybe they just don't know. They don't have a Chris to go to.
Yeah.
I mean, in some things you can Google it, and some things you just need to know
You
the
just
right
gotta
person.
You got to know when that furniture is like
Yes.
something ain't right.
Yes.
Right. And you're right about that because you talk about the podcast, like needing a space for it. And now there are all these content studios popping up all across the country. And I'm sure they are converting spaces that were once something else into now a content studio to do podcasts.
Correct.
To do all these different, media, because everybody's basically turned into a media company now, right?
It all changes, right? Airbnb 10 years ago or so, that wasn't a thing. Culture changed. I mean, again, when I was coming up, you'd be like, I'm going to stay in somebody's house. Who's doing that?
Yeah.
Right.
I
know.
Uber.
I'm getting a car with a stranger.
Who's doing that?
Yes.
Right? So culture changes, which means the real estate reacts to that. And then on the retro side and on the new construction side too, reactionary to that. Facebook is building, Meta or whatever,
Meta.
building this big thing in North Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a huge thing, right? But at one point you would build, I don't know what the square footages are, but they're large. But I think they're only going to employ maybe 200 people. At one point, something like that may employ 10,000 people.
Yeah, because we were talking about data centers are basically like power plants.
Yes.
Right? But now with all the people that it takes to run a power
All
plant.
those people, right?
Yeah.
So it's different. Everything is different now. Those big plants are American Can. Perfect example. That was a can company. I remember when they got renovated and they made cans there. That went away and now it's apartments. So it's everything changes and evolves like that. But to me, it follows culture. It follows where we are and what we're doing as a society.
So one of the big debates in New Orleans, and you briefly mentioned it, was Airbnbs.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have commercial spaces like Jong Hotel, who basically they're like turned into like Airbnbs.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on large commercial spaces basically turning into Airbnbs, right?
Well, Airbnb is an interesting phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
They're really just hotels,
Yeah.
right, that don't have front desk. Now, from the owner perspective, it's less staff. So now if I got a 100-room, 100-unit Airbnb, I don't have to have a director of housekeeping. I don't need to have a food and beverage manager. I don't need to have to turn that room every month. So it helped every week, every night. Sorry about that. And so it changes staffing, which makes profitability better. And now I don't have to charge as much as I hired a Hilton or something like that. Then in different settings too, right? The typical Airbnb is going to be a extended stay situation with a kitchen and all of that. Whereas a hotel is, not saying anything has any extended stay hotels, but traditional hotel is 350 square feet with a couple, TV in a bed. So it changes, But I'm on the fence with it. I'm a traditional, because we transact hotels. So I'm a traditional hotel, but I am open and understand where the need for the Airbnbs are.
I think it's interesting. I was looking to move to Miami,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember like just going to different apartments or
Mm-hmm.
condos to look. And I remember I went to one place in Brooklyn to look for this beautiful building, beautiful condo. And I talked to the person that he was like, "Are you looking to actually rent, or are you looking to lease for Airbnb?" And I was like, "Wait, what?"
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "I can do that." He's like, "Yeah, you either can live here or you can rent, but let us know from the beginning, like you're only renting this place for it to be Airbnb." And I was like, "Oh, the game is like really changing."
10 years ago, that wasn't a thing.
Because some
can't
buildings
wait
are
to do it
like,
like that.
no, some buildings are like, you can't rent your
My
condo
condo.
apartment,
Right.
Which is why I'm getting rid of it.
But this particular place, like, you could tell them from the beginning, like, hey, I want 3 apartment buildings, but I'm only getting these for
For
Airbnb. There's another place in Miami where like you can live there, but like say you're someone who travels. Like when I'm having my travel schedule, I might be on the road for 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just tell them, and they put your apartment,
Mm-hmm.
and they check people in. And I was like, man, this is a whole different.
A whole different.
ballgame.
Again, I like Airbnb. I've never personally. I know this is crazy. And I travel. I never stayed in one. I've always been.
Of course, the hospitality guy who, hotels,
yeah.
never stayed
It's,
in
it's not like
Airbnb.
I'm against them like that. It's just I've never done.
It's a reason why. Tell us.
I don't know, man.
Like, no
I know
gray
what this
area.
Marriott is going. Yes, that's probably more me. I know what this Marriott I'm going to get there, which is interesting, right? So think about that. That's how hotels stand out amongst some Airbnb providers. Is that you know what you're going to get in a traditional hotel, whereas in an Airbnb you don't know if this person taking care of their property or they're not. And a lot of times you can't see the front of the property, right? So you don't know what it is. You could be in the hood or whatever.
Yeah,
You don't know.
Or they not have washcloths.
Oh my gosh.
You don't know.
Yeah. I will say I have stayed in Airbnbs, but I give me to a hotel. Like I also just for safety reasons. Not saying that incidents don't happen at hotels because they do, but I don't know. Did you change the code on that door? Like you have access to this house. Like I'm gonna take my chances at a hotel before an Airbnb.
I like Airbnbs for like large parties.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're traveling with like 15, well not 15, maybe like 12, 10 people.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Like
with
my
that.
bachelorette, like Miami although we did hotel too, but having a house, I like that idea. However, I will say that the concept that you said where you have like Saunders and they're just like these rooms, they're very like sterile looking. I do not like Airbnbs like that. I actually like to live in an Airbnb where it was someone's home, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember my first time using Airbnb was in San Francisco. And it was to this couple and they met me. They gave me the keys. They showed me around. This old school. No one does this anymore. They met me with the keys. They showed me around. They had a little book with all the rules and stuff. And it was the most beautiful brownstone in San Francisco. I felt like I was in a movie, like I loved it. And then the second Airbnb I had was on Capitol Hill in DC, also in one of these very historic homes, like beautiful. It was like perfect. But then later on, when they started commercializing Airbnbs, I would go to these very sterile apartments, white, 2 chairs, an old sofa that was like, that probably cost $100 they got from some flea market. And I thought, oh yeah, Airbnb is changing. I'd rather stay in a hotel,
Give me a hotel.
And so I have gone back to hotel primarily because of that reason.
Yeah, it's because of consistency.
Yes.
I think that this is off subject a bit, but I think that cab companies or transportation companies should evolve and talk more about the consistency that they have in the ride. Because if I travel Uber all the time. You never know what you're gonna get. You may have somebody who likes to indulge in the fragrance of things.
You open that door and be like, whoosh.
You don't know, man. People just got out their bed. It's just crazy, right? You don't know. It's a pile of luck. So I think that there's an opportunity for consistency in transportation, because I know this person is drug tested. I know this person has a clean uniform. I know this, you know what I'm saying? So it's certain things that I think.
Yeah, you're right. Taxis would have like opportunity, right? Because they have, such a rigid.
You would think they would be playing up on that.
Yeah.
All right, so now we have to ask you about your rich lesson.
Oh, which one? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so she'd always like me to do this. So I always say a rich lesson is something that you've learned in business or in life that could have cost you everything to learn or nothing at all.
I don't know. Again, I come back because I'm always about this. Is the relationship. I think understanding relationship is my rich lesson. I think that's I know that's the key for me is the relationship that I've had, and I mean, it's not, let's just say getting on a podcast or creating opportunities in real estate. I mean, banking is relationships, right? Credit means credibility. That's what is an acronym. I mean, a short term for, right? So this person knows you, and now so they've taken the relationship out of it, and they've gone to a credit number that lets them know if you're going to pay something back. But at one point, it was all off the relationship that you have with someone. If someone's come to me and say, "I want to buy a small building," first thing I'm gonna say, don't go to traditional bank. Credit unions is better. You know why? Because you're gonna know that branch person. They're gonna know you. So it's all about the relationship. So to me, rich lesson would be understanding the key and the value of relationships.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We appreciate you, Chris.
No, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for the rich lessons.
Till next time.